A cranberry bog should be a sea of crimson this time of year. But this one was a mudflat of stranded berries, the water gone overnight.
No, 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 this can't be happening. It was just supposed to drain a little.
You were warned, Mrs. Davenport. You opened the wrong valve.
Ma'am, you are going to have to explain this to a judge. Agricultural sabotage is a serious charge.
Mr. Reeves, Ocean Spray is prepared to enforce the full penalty clause. The cooperative doesn't tolerate this.
The supply disruption affects national inventory. The losses are already in the millions.
On the edge of the drained bed, the farmer, the sheriff, and the corporate executives stood in a cold autumn wind, surveying the damage that would reach Thanksgiving tables across the country. 3 million pounds of cranberries, stranded and starting to rot, worth more than this land had earned in a decade. But to understand how a single entitled HOA decision could trigger a $4.8 million cascade, you have to go back 3 weeks, to when the bog was full, and Patricia Davenport thought she could win with a simple complaint. James Reeves had been harvesting this bog for 20 years, a cooperative member under a locked-in supply contract that Patricia couldn't even imagine. 3 weeks before the sabotage, the bog was full and gleaming, millions of berries ready for the harvest crew.
You call this a farm? It's a swamp. The mosquitoes are unbearable. This whole neighborhood will be suffering.
It's a protected agricultural operation, ma'am. Mosquitoes breed in standing water, not in a flowing cranberry bog.
But Patricia Davenport was the HOA chair, and she turned a roadside gripe into an official crusade. At the emergency HOA meeting, she stood before the neighborhood with printed statistics and a righteous glare.
That bog is a mosquito factory. We have children and elderly residents. I demand the Reeves property drain immediately.
Draining the bog now would destroy my entire year's harvest. That's my livelihood you are asking me to throw away.
When the vote came, her motion failed 7-3. The bog would stay, and Patricia's authority suffered a public wound.
This isn't over, Mr. Reeves. You'll wish you'd taken my offer when you had the chance.
The meeting adjourned, but a dangerous seed had been planted. Patricia Davenport was not done, and the next move would come in the dark. 2 days after the HOA vote, Patricia Davenport's white SUV pulled into the gravel drive at James Reeves' farmhouse.
Mr. Reeves, I am here as a courtesy. Drain that bog voluntarily, or the HOA will make your life very difficult.
The HOA has no jurisdiction over agricultural land. This property is older than the subdivision.
Don't quote zoning laws at me. I have connections on the county board. You are 1 vote away from a nuisance citation.
Before you go down that road, you should know that I have a 30-year supply contract with Ocean Spray. You can't touch this farm.
Ocean Spray? Please. They're a juice company. You think I am afraid of a cranberry cooperative?
But James didn't blink. He pointed to the Ocean Spray sign on his fence and let the heavy silence speak for him. That night, Patricia sat at her home office, searching county irrigation records with a scalpel of spite.
If the water is what they need, then cutting the water might be exactly what this neighborhood needs.
She located the drainage valve on an old survey map, less than 200 yards from the bog's edge. That night, the final piece of her plan clicked into place. On a moonless October night, Patricia Davenport pulled on dark clothing and slipped out of her house, bolt cutters hidden under her coat.
The lock on the valve is old and flimsy. 1 snip, and the mosquito factory is gone.
She found the rusted wheel, wrapped her hands around it, and cranked with all her strength. A deep shudder ran through the ground. Water erupted from the pipe, a white jet that carved trenches across the soil, as the bog emptied into the night. By dawn, 47 million gallons had fled, leaving a landscape James Reeves didn't recognize. He stepped onto his porch expecting the morning chorus. Instead, an unnatural silence hung over the bog. He ran, boots squelching in mud where water should be. 3 million pounds of cranberries lay baking in the sun.
This can't be real. The irrigation was fine last night. Who would do this?
Following the flood path, he found the valve. The padlock was cut, the wheel turned, water still dripping.
This wasn't an accident. Somebody opened the valve, Somebody destroyed me. Deputy Harris, you need to come out to my bog. Someone cut the irrigation line. Millions of pounds gone.
I see the cut lock and the tire tracks. Somebody knew exactly what they were doing. You got any enemies, Mr. Reeves?
The HOA chair, Patricia Davenport. She threatened me after the HOA vote, but I need proof.
40 minutes later, Patricia Davenport sat at her computer with a glass of Chardonnay and posted to the HOA Facebook group.
Took care of the mosquito factory. Amazing what a little overnight maintenance can do for property values.
Within an hour, the post had 47 likes and 19 shares, neighbors cheering the removal of a public nuisance. James Reeves saw the notification while standing at the edge of his ruined bog, and a cold fury settled in his chest.
Patricia Davenport. She didn't just destroy my harvest, she admitted it publicly.
Look at all the support. The community was tired of that swamp. I did everyone a favor.
But James was done talking. He saved screenshots, forwarded the post to Deputy Harris, and then he dialed Ocean Spray.
Thomas, it's James Reeves. Someone cut the valve. I've got 3 million pounds of cranberries rotting in the mud.
James, your 30-year supply contract has a breach penalty that affects national inventory. This is catastrophic.
Your bog supplies 12% of the East Coast Thanksgiving sauce. The preliminary loss calculation is $4.8 million.
4.8 million. Patricia didn't drain a swamp. She detonated a supply chain that feeds the nation's holiday tables.
We're dispatching our legal division. They'll land tomorrow. Be prepared to file a criminal complaint along with the civil suit.
Within hours, an Ocean Spray legal memorandum was drafted, naming Patricia Davenport as the party responsible for a deliberate contract breach.
We've already contacted the county prosecutor. Agricultural sabotage is a felony. The sheriff's evidence will be quick to process.
Good. She boasted on Facebook. I want her to understand. She didn't just attack me. She attacked a cooperative that's been fighting since 1930.
The Ocean Spray legal team flew out that night, carrying a $4.8 million claim and a century of institutional memory. Patricia thought she was emptying a pond. She had torn a contract so vast, it would swallow her entire world. By morning, Patricia's Facebook post had been shared 4,000 times, far beyond the HOA group, and the comments were turning toxic.
You destroyed a farmer's livelihood over mosquitoes? What kind of monster are you? This is ridiculous. They don't understand.
Local news outlets had picked up the story, and by noon, the phrase cranberry destruction was trending across the region.
Trending? It was a drainage project. How did this blow up into a national crisis?
A consumer advocacy blog posted the screenshots alongside images of the dried cranberries, calling it the biggest Thanksgiving sabotage in history.
This is out of control. They're twisting it. I was protecting the neighborhood.
Her phone buzzed with calls from reporters she'd never briefed, each one asking the same question. Did you know about the Ocean Spray contract?
Ocean Spray? That ridiculous contract James mentioned. It can't actually have this much power.
But the comments kept piling up. My grandmother's Thanksgiving sauce comes from that farm. Boycott Patricia Davenport. Patricia sat alone in her living room. The cheers of her early supporters now replaced by a growing dread that she had misjudged the consequences entirely. The next morning, Ocean Spray's legal executives landed at the county airport, carrying briefcases that held a century of cooperative authority. They drove straight to the bog, stepping out in front of the ruined fields where 3 million pounds of cranberries lay stranded.
The damage is exactly as projected. 3 million pounds of premium berries, zero recoverable. The board won't let this slide.
The contract breach triggers severe liquidated damages. Our legal team is preparing the filing as we speak.
What is all this? You are from Ocean Spray? That ridiculous juice company doesn't scare me. That bog was a health hazard.
Mrs. Davenport, you destroyed 12% of the East Coast's Thanksgiving cranberry supply. This isn't a joke. You are facing a multi-million-dollar lawsuit.
And criminal charges are being pursued. Agricultural sabotage is a felony in this state. You'll want a good lawyer.
You were warned, Patricia. You didn't listen. Now the cooperative's legal machine is moving.
Multi-million dollars. Felony. This can't be happening. It was just a drainage valve.
Patricia walked away in silence. The ocean spray truck rumbled to life behind her, and she knew that the lawsuit was already in motion. The ocean spray legal letter arrived at Patricia Davenport's house by certified mail the following afternoon. She tore it open in her living room, hands trembling as she scanned the dense paragraphs.
$4.8 million. Felony agricultural sabotage. This can't be real. I drained a pond, not a pipeline.
The letter demanded immediate payment, listed potential criminal charges, and gave her 48 hours to retain counsel.
They can't do this. It was an HOA matter. I'll call my lawyer. He'll fix this.
But her attorney, a real estate lawyer who specialized in deed disputes, listened for 3 minutes and then delivered a sobering reply.
What do you mean criminal exposure? Just file an injunction or something. I am the HOA chair, not a vandal.
The lawyer explained that cutting a cooperative's irrigation system mid-harvest was a federal agricultural crime. He advised her to start liquidating assets.
Liquidate assets? Our retirement, the restaurant, the house. They could take it all because I turned a valve.
She hung up the phone and stared at the ocean spray letterhead. Finally, understanding that she had not been battling a farmer, but a corporation with infinite resources and a long memory, James walked into the sheriff's office with a manila envelope containing the Facebook screenshots and the cut padlock from his valve.
The post is a confession, Mr. Reeves. Digital forensics traced the IP to Patricia Davenport's home network.
She sabotaged my harvest and bragged about it publicly. That kind of arrogance proves intent better than any witness.
Deputy Harris slid a photograph of the cut lock next to the Facebook printout, the evidence chain tightening with each new piece.
Add the surveillance camera capturing her SUV near the valve at midnight, and we have more than enough for an arrest warrant.
An arrest warrant. After all her threats and smug posts, the law is finally catching up to her.
The prosecutor had already signed off. Felony agricultural sabotage and criminal mischief, carrying decades of potential jail time.
We'll move tomorrow morning. She'll be arrested at her home with no warning. I suggest you stay away from the scene.
She took an entire harvest from my family and 100 family farms in the cooperative. Her HOA title won't shield her from this.
James left the station with the weight of evidence behind him. Patricia Davenport's reckoning was now hours away, and there would be no last-minute escape. At 7:15 a.m., 2 sheriff's cruisers pulled into Patricia Davenport's driveway, deputies stepping out with an arrest warrant in hand.
What is this? It's not even 8 o'clock. Do you know who I am?
Patricia Davenport, you are under arrest for felony agricultural sabotage. Turn around and place your hands behind your back.
This is a mistake. I am the HOA chair, not a criminal. That bog was a health hazard.
Neighbors poured onto their lawns, smartphones raised, capturing the moment the most powerful woman in the subdivision was led toward the squad car in handcuffs.
This is all James Reeves' fault. He's trying to destroy me. I'll sue for false arrest.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law.
The cruiser door slammed shut, and through the window Patricia's face collapsed from indignation to pure terror as the magnitude of felony charges broke through. By noon, her mugshot was leaked to the press, and national outlets ran the story of the Cranberry Karen, who destroyed a cooperative's harvest. The arrest shattered Patricia's social clout instantly. But the avalanche of legal and financial consequences had only just begun to roll downhill. The Ocean Spray legal team filed a joint civil complaint, naming Patricia Davenport and the entire HOA as co-defendants. The complaint cited gross negligence, destruction of cooperative property, and sought $4.8 million in damages.
We've named the HOA as a co-defendant. Their bylaws explicitly prohibit willful property damage, and Patricia was acting as their agent.
The homeowners didn't know about the sabotage, but their association's insurance may not cover intentional acts. This could fall on every household.
That evening, an emergency HOA meeting was called, and the community room swelled with frightened residents clutching letters from their insurers. The interim president explained the civil suit and warned that if Patricia's assets proved insufficient, every household could face a special assessment. A retired school teacher stood and shouted, "So because Patricia wanted to kill mosquitoes, we could lose our retirement homes?" The room erupted with demands that Patricia's personal assets be seized first, that the HOA should sue her for indemnification, that her house be auctioned.
They're finally starting to understand that her vendetta could cost them everything they've worked for. I didn't want this for them.
The meeting adjourned without resolution, but a new anger simmered, no longer at James Reeves, but at the woman who had weaponized an HOA against a family farm. While the HOA fumed, the story of the Cranberry sabotage rocketed across national consumer blogs and food industry watch groups. At the flagship Davenport's family diner, George Davenport was going over inventory when his phone began to light up with reservation cancellations.
What do you mean? Family owner destroyed a farm. My wife wouldn't do that. She's on the HOA board, not a tractor.
Social media detectives had already linked the Davenport name to the diner chain, posting the mugshot beside a photo of the restaurant's logo.
30% of tonight's tables, gone. They're blaming the whole business because of some mosquitoes.
Outside, a small cluster of protesters gathered with homemade signs, "Boycott Davenport Diner. Support Cranberry farmers."
Cancel the rest of the night. Off the record, what are they saying? My wife drained a cranberry bog.
By evening, the local paper had run a front-page story. Cranberry Karen's family diner faces national boycott.
20 years we built this. My wife just bombed our own livelihood with a valve wheel.
The domino had tipped, and the Davenport restaurant empire, once a local staple, was now a symbol of corporate indifference and a wife's catastrophic arrogance. Within 48 hours, Ocean Spray obtained an emergency court order, freezing the HOA's entire reserve fund, pending the civil suit.
We moved for an asset freeze this morning. The judge signed it without delay. The HOA can't touch a dime until we settle.
At Patricia's bail hearing, the prosecutor argued she was a flight risk. The judge set bail at $500,000. George Davenport arrived at the county jail that evening, his face hollowed by sleeplessness and the realization his wife had destroyed their family.
Do you have any idea what you've done? The diners are ghost towns. People are spitting on our name. I had to lay off the morning shift.
It was just a drainage project. No one told me about some ridiculous Ocean Spray contract.
You didn't ask. You never ask. You bulldoze everyone, and now our entire life is sinking because you couldn't stand a few mosquitoes.
You are blaming me. You built those restaurants on my connections. I made this family.
Made it. You just unmade it, Patricia. We're facing bankruptcy. Bankruptcy.
He walked out without looking back. For the first time in their 30-year marriage, Patricia Davenport was truly alone. The morning after the jail visit, George Davenport stood in the diner office as his produce supplier called to demand cash on delivery.
I've been buying from you for 18 years, and now you want cash up front? You've seen the headlines?
3 days later, the Davenport's family diner in Northampton closed its doors for good, the first of 4 locations to fall.
20 years of serving this town, and one act of stupidity from my wife is all it took to send it down. Tell the cooks and the waitstaff I am sorry, but we can't make payroll this week. Lock the doors after the lunch shift.
The bank statements piled up on George's desk, red ink creeping into every column as supplier invoices went unpaid, and the remaining diners bled customers.
Bankruptcy. The word tastes like acid, but if I don't file, they'll take the house, the cars, everything. Is there any way to save at least one location? If I sell the equipment and lay off everyone, can we restructure?
The attorney prepared the initial bankruptcy filing, but warned that Patricia's criminal case could drag the business into the restitution order. George signed the papers, his hand shaking, knowing that the family legacy was collapsing not because of market forces, but because his wife couldn't let a farmer work in peace. A trial date was set for January 18th. Patricia Davenport would face a jury on 3 felony counts of agricultural sabotage.
This is all a misunderstanding. The jury will see I was protecting my neighborhood from a public nuisance.
A group of homeowners filed a class action against the HOA board, claiming failure to prevent intentional property damage, seeking further damages from the association. Media trucks lined the courthouse square, broadcasting live updates of the Cranberry Karen trial to millions across the country.
The truth doesn't need a lawyer. The valve handle had her fingerprints, and her own words sealed the case.
James Reeves arrived at the courthouse, carrying a binder of evidence, the contract, the photograph of the cut padlock, and a screenshot of Patricia's Facebook post. Patricia's defense attorney filed a series of motions to suppress the Facebook post, arguing free speech. The judge denied everyone.
Even my own words are weapons now. Everything I said is being twisted against me.
Neighbors she'd led for years refused to testify in her defense, and the local paper ran an editorial titled, "The HOA That Poisoned Thanksgiving." The night before jury selection, James walked the perimeter of his empty bog, letting the silence brace him for the verdict that would define the rest of his career. The prosecution called James Reeves as its first witness. He sat in the stand with the same calm presence he'd carried through the season.
That bog feeds 12% of the East Coast's Thanksgiving cranberries. Draining it wasn't a nuisance call. It was a deliberate act against a cooperative.
The Ocean Spray executives then presented the original 30-year supply contract, highlighting the breach penalty clause in stark red ink.
3 million pounds of premium cranberries lost, a $4.8 million disruption to our national supply chain. This was no mistake.
Patricia Davenport took the stand, her voice initially steady as she claimed she was only acting in the community's interest.
It was a health hazard. Mosquitoes breed in standing water. I had every right as HOA chair to protect my neighborhood.
The prosecutor pulled up her Facebook post on the courtroom screen. The jury read the words aloud, "Took care of the mosquito factory."
I didn't know about the contract. No one told me that draining a swamp would affect cranberry sauce.
After 3 days of testimony, the judge read the jury instructions and sent them to deliberate. Patricia's future hung on 12 strangers. The jury filed out, and the gallery held its breath. Somewhere outside, James stood under a winter oak, waiting for the verdict that would close this season forever. 3.5 hours later, the jury sent word they had reached a verdict. The courtroom filled with a heavy electric silence. The foreman stood, unfolded the paper, and in a voice that carried to the last row, delivered the first word. Guilty. Guilty on all 3 felony counts. Patricia Davenport let out a sharp cry, then grabbed the defense table, as if the floor had tilted.
No, they didn't understand. I was trying to protect homes. You can't do this to me.
The judge struck the gavel once, then twice, and the room fell quiet enough to hear the hum of the fluorescent lights. He sentenced Patricia Davenport to 5 years in state prison, plus $4.8 million in restitution to the Ocean Spray Cooperative.
5 years. 4.8 million. Everything I owned, everything George built, swallowed by a single turn of a valve.
The bailiff moved to escort her, but Patricia's legs gave way, and she slumped against the table as the verdict cameras flashed. In that moment, the woman who had once commanded an entire subdivision became inmate number 73211. Her empire reduced to a jail cell, but the criminal verdict was only the first domino. The civil judgments and family fallout were still rolling, and nothing could stop them now.
The court approved the Chapter 7 petition this morning. Davenport's family diner is officially insolvent.
By the end of the week, all 4 locations had closed. The neon signs went dark, and the kitchens fell silent.
My father opened the first diner in '73. Now his chairs are being stacked for an auctioneer.
The auctioneer's gavel fell on everything. Booths, griddles, the vintage jukebox that had played Elvis for 40 years.
The supplier took the walk-in as payment. The bank took the lot. There's nothing left but the name.
And the name was poison now. The Davenport Diner sign came down from the last building, leaving a ghostly outline on the wall.
28 employees I couldn't pay. 28 families that trusted the Davenport name.
George locked the last door and dropped the keys into a manila envelope addressed to the bankruptcy trustee.
She didn't just kill a harvest. She killed our life's work, and I'll never forgive her, and I'll never forgive her.
The Davenport family legacy, built over 2 generations, was reduced to a few lines in a bankruptcy filing and a mugshot that would forever define their name. The civil judgment arrived 4 weeks after the criminal verdict. The HOA was ordered to pay $1.2 million for negligence and damages. The association's reserve funds were liquidated overnight. Every dollar saved for road maintenance and community repairs disappeared into the settlement. Homeowners received special assessment letters the next morning, demanding payments that ranged from $8,000 to $22,000 per household. The monthly HOA fees were frozen by court order, and 24 families immediately listed their homes for sale, unwilling to carry Patricia's debt. A foreclosure notice appeared on Patricia Davenport's front door, tacked to the wood beside the brass knocker she had polished every Sunday.
My house, the house I fought for, auctioned to strangers while I sit in a cell.
The county seized her jewelry, her SUV, and the investment accounts, applying every asset toward the restitution order. The auctioneer sold the Davenport Colonial in a 40-minute sale, the final bid barely covering the remaining legal fees. The HOA voted to dissolve itself 6 weeks later. The Ridgeland Estates sign was removed, and the community boardroom locked forever. Patricia Davenport had once bent the neighborhood to her will. Now she was an inmate, and the soil she fought over would belong to someone else forever. On the first thaw of March, James Reeves walked into his drained bog with a bundle of new cranberry vines and a shovel.
These vines will take 2 years to bear fruit, but the land remembers what it's supposed to do.
The Ocean Spray Cooperative had paid the insurance premium and covered the replanting costs, honoring the contract Patricia had tried to break.
James, the board wants you to re-sign the supply agreement. Same terms, same protection. We stand with our growers.
This land has been in my family since before the cooperative. I'll sign, and the next harvest will be sweeter.
A new sign was erected at the bog's edge. Ocean Spray Cooperative Protected Farm. The old one had been torn down in the flood. In late May, the irrigation channels were reopened. Water flowed back into the beds, and the first green shoots broke the surface.
It's coming back. The land heals faster than people do.
The cooperative held a small ceremony at the farm, presenting James with a plaque recognizing his stewardship under pressure.
A harvest is an act of trust between farmers and the land. No HOA can ever break that.
In her cell, Patricia Davenport received a thick legal envelope. George had filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences.
He didn't even wait. Everything I built for us, dissolved by a single valve, and my own arrogance.
On the last Thursday of November, James Reeves stood at his kitchen window, watching a light frost settle over the flooded bog.
The new vines won't flood for another year, but this morning I am grateful for the land that held on.
His Thanksgiving table was modest, but at the center sat a bowl of homemade cranberry sauce, bright and unbroken.
6 states will have cranberry sauce tonight because a few stubborn growers refused to let one woman's spite destroy a season.
In the gathering dusk, the Cranberry Bog lay still and full again, the water a mirror of a sky that promised another harvest. Patricia Davenport served her sentence in a cell with a view of a concrete wall, her former dominion sold, her family broken. The Ocean Spray Cooperative never missed a delivery. Thanksgiving came on schedule, and the nation passed the cranberry sauce without knowing the battle that had been fought for it. Some fights leave the land scarred. This one left it renewed, and a quiet message in every jar. Some contracts can't be broken by a single angry hand.